You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 295. My name is Clark from 5cardguys.com, and you can also find me at 5cardguys, all one word, on Instagram, YouTube, and on Facebook. Co-hosting with me is Hyung, and you can find him at Cho Hyung on IG and YouTube as well. Johnny's away this week again, but it's all good. Hopefully he'll be back with us soon. All right, off the top, it's funny that I think in our last episode, we were joking about how Ellie De La Cruz has like several rookie cards over different years. And part of the problem really is that he was called up mid-season. And I looked it up. He was called up June 6, 2023, to be more precise. And so really that means he couldn't be in Top Series 1 of that year because obviously it was released just before the season starts. And it was too late for him to be in Top Series 2, which is released mid-year. And I believe he didn't even make the cutoff to be in Topps Update, which is released at the end of the season. So if you look for Ellie De La Cruz's rookie cards, his Topps flagship, it's actually in 2024 Topps Series 1, right? Although his rookie season was technically 2023. Anyway, I bring this up because I saw a recent article that now definitively states, moving forward, the end of May is the cutoff date for rookies to get their cards in that year's product, right? That's, I guess, what Topps announced. It used to be a little bit more fuzzy when the deadline was because some rookies were called up late May, which was fine. And some rookies were called up early June and they still made it to the Topps Update box, right? But now the hard cutoff date is end of May. I'll just add this one thing before I ask for your thoughts, Hyung. The confusion really is, just for like Ellie De La Cruz's card in 2023, since he was called up in June 6th and didn't get into Topps Update, that didn't mean he didn't have any cards in 2023. Right. It was actually in the Topps Now cards, which is growing in popularity. And it was branded call up. It was a call-up baseball card, essentially, right? And it didn't have the RC logo on it. So, Hyung, first your thoughts on the hard cutoff date, end of May. Do you like it, or do you think it should be case by case?
I think setting standards, boundaries is good. Like, as a hobbyist, we want to know as well what we're waiting for, what sets, what players. So now that we have a standard, I think it's going to... I prefer it personally. I think there are a couple strategic moves that I guess Topps is thinking of maybe. Because if you limit one, I think long term it's great for rookie cards in general. Because I think it limits rookie cards, it keeps Topps Series 1 and Series 2 and Chrome very relevant. And then as well, the Topps Chrome update. Now that becomes the debut patch at the end of the year, the chase. So I like that as a whole concept and idea. And I didn't like the fact that you get so many different versions of rookie cards. And if you think about it, like, Ohtani, for instance, let's go back to 2018. You could go to Aaron Judge. You could go to Acuna in 2018, Soto in 2018. I mean, Acuna was called up after April 15th, I believe, but before May. So he fell in that Topps Series 2. So that's where the bat down image was a short printed run. But then they included him in update, which is the bat up. So think of the scarcity of Ronald Acuna Series 2 card compared to if they didn't print update that year. And same goes with Ohtani. Think of the craziness we would have had, because I think one of the reasons why Ohtani flagship rookie cards don't sell is no one knows which one's which. There's so many of them.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And same with Acuna, same with Soto. Yeah. Judge is not that bad, but starting 2018, I feel that's when there were so many different standards that kind of not ruined, but like I said, Otani's base rookie cards and that flagship, you have two options. You have Topps 700 and then you have US Update, right? So having two kind of rookie cards with different parallels, I think it ruins the scarcity of the card in the long run. So sure. I like the idea. I don't know how it's all going to unfold and what it looks like and how Topps Chrome Update is going to do the debut patches, reflecting on only people in Series 1, Series 2. I don't know what the deal is. Does that mean Topps Finest, Bowman's Best follows the same thing? Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
You know, something I didn't even think about until you were talking is, what happens if they get called up before that end of May deadline?
Right.
Do they include in Top Series 2 and Topps Update? Like, there should be a standard for that as well, right?
I think that cutoff should be anybody in Top Series 1 and Series 2 should be in Chrome and Update.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah, that it's all standard. You made Series 2, if you make Series 1 and Series 2, that means you're in Chrome, plus you're in Topps Chrome Update. As a debut, right. As a debut patch, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I think that's simple enough.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
Put in rules.
Yeah.
Put in rules. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's. I'm with you. I like standards. You know, and I would like to say this is why baseball card collecting is a little more complex than other sports, right? Because you can get called up as a rookie at any time during the year. Mm-hmm. You know, pretty much. Whereas in football and basketball, you usually start at the beginning of the season. You know when you're going to start, and and also with baseball, you could be in the minors for a long time. You just don't know exactly. So that's what's unique. And I think this is where the distinction comes in play. I know I get a lot of slack when I say their first Bowman Chrome, which is
I give you a lot of slack inside too, Clark. And it's not his rookie card. Clark.
I hear that quite a bit from the purists, okay? The purists like to say, hey, stop calling it a rookie auto. It's a prospect auto. And, for all intents and purposes, we see that as the best rookie auto, okay? Sorry to say. But while we're talking about this, now I can see, or this is more relevant to that debate, prospect versus rookie, because the prospect autos usually are issued, first Bowman Chrome anyway, like 2 or 3 years before they actually make it to the big leagues, right? Mm-hmm. So just throwing that out there. People might call me hypocritical, but I'm just throwing it out there before you call me that, okay?
I think going back to your point on Topps Now as well, I think that it makes Topps Now more valuable, in my opinion.
Sure.
Right? So now you have flagship Chase, and then you have your Topps Now, and then your Chrome Parallels, and then your debut auto. So it kind of makes sense in that regards.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think it'll be less confusing moving forward. And to your point, I'm glad you brought Otani and Acuna as examples, because even I'm confused. I'm like, which one's the one to get? Which one do I really like? Which is more valuable? Yeah, I'm sure I'm definitely not the only one that thinks that way. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. Okay, so this is an interesting development in the breaking space of the hobby. First, we know that Walmart previously launched their own marketplace online to sell trading cards, if you remember, Hyung, and we covered it on this podcast. Not sure how well that's going, but I think I can safely say eBay has nothing to worry about yet, right? I'm not on Walmart, their website to sell cards. But anyway, Walmart is doubling down, it seems, on the hobby because they're getting into the breaking business, having recently partnered with We the Hobby, which is a card store and a breaker in Rochester. I believe I was in Rochester several months ago, and they have their shop there. So yeah, they're partnering out with We the Hobby to start breaks on the Walmart Live platform. So your immediate thoughts, Hyung, about hearing this news? And right after, I got some more broad follow-up questions for you in regards to what you think about, in general, big corporations and companies partnering up with local hobby shops in general like this. But first, what do you think about the whole Walmart news?
It's interesting that it's not something direct from Fanatics. It's partnered through, a hobby shop. At first I was when I didn't even know about this one when you mentioned it. I thought it was interesting that somebody like Walmart is continuing, I guess, this path, because I don't know. We talked about Walmart getting into it, and I didn't hear anything after that, nor did I follow up. So I don't know how successful it went, but I imagine that Walmart sees the potential of the hobby based on just their retail sales alone, their issues with the retail, people returning stuff. Like, it's a big industry and they see it as that, right? So I feel as though Walmart does see the potential. So one, it's interesting that it's not Fanatics directly with Walmart. It's We the Hobby Walmart collab. Maybe that was intentional to keep breakers or retail shops relevant as well, or hobby shops relevant as well. But I think this is a birth also of just retail in general. I think Target, even Amazon, all these massive corporate platforms have huge, I guess, opportunity in the card space, because retail has always been part of the hobby. It was always retail. You could get the not so, I guess, the cheaper boxes and long shot hits, and then if you're a hobbyist, you pay a little more and go to a hobby shop. That's kind of like the old school setup of the way we purchased cards. So it's always been a history for retail to be in the space. We're just seeing it, I guess, as technology increases, Walmart saying, okay, are we just the standalone retail space? Is this where we see the hobby going, where it's just the standalone retail space? And I think based on their decisions and their actions, they see it as more. They see the opportunities, whether it's breaking, whether it's online. And I don't know the analytics or data. They have to have a lot of it. And people running it, they're not dumb. They're not in it to not make money. So I imagine it went well, or they see at least the potential as long as they put the necessary investments into the ecosystem or platform.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. And I think for Walmart, it's almost a no-brainer, right? Like you were saying, how retail's always been part of the hobby. I think it's going to continue to be part of the hobby. And this is just kind of another marketing vehicle for them in a way, right? To get, hey, they're breaking retail product on their platform, and that just gets eyes on, their the product that they sell, especially cards specifically, right? So I think when people, if they do come onto the breaks, or they actually see it streamed on wherever, Walmart Live, they're like, wait a minute, I think it's more likely that, people who collect will go to Walmart to just pick up their own box, because it's generally cheaper than hobby boxes or jumbo boxes that you get at hobby shops, right? It's a different SKU altogether. So I like that about it as a marketing play. So that's kind of my first thoughts.
And I think Walmart and other retail places like Target, Amazon, they have so much potential to, for instance, if I'm Walmart, I'm investing in a purchaser or buyer who understands the hobby. Like that's his specialty. And if Walmart were to, let's just say, put a whole section, they have entertainment, they have, groceries, if they had a hobby section, or even a whole hobby section in general, I think they could capitalize so much. And it's different than hobby shops. It's a totally different product, because retail is a different product in general. You have mega boxes, you have other different types of sets that's not available necessarily in the hobby shop. And we even seen it in anytime there's a massive set release, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, hobby boxes are so expensive that people go to retail.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then it's the problem of those scalpers who end up taking all the retail. We see all the memes, and especially in Pokemon, you see it a lot. So I feel like Walmart hasn't even touched the surface in terms of, or any retail. I'm not even talking, when we say Walmart, that includes Target, Amazon, or whoever big platform wants to kind of participate in this, because if they're already purchasing, already going inside the store, why wouldn't you expand that, especially if the whole marketplace is expanding? You got to jump on that side of things and be kind of the front runner, I would say. And that's what I'm glad Walmart's doing. If I'm running a big company like Walmart, that's exactly what I'm going to be, the innovator into a marketplace like sports cards, because I know how much growth is in that overall marketplace.
For sure. For sure. I love what they're doing, and it's only good for the hobby that things like this are happening. It means that it's growing, that bigger companies and corporations are actually paying attention and investing in the space. And who knows if it'll work out exactly the way they had envisioned. Maybe they have to change a few things, tweak a few things here and there. But the fact that they're trying things out is always a good sign. And like you, I really like the idea that they've been partnering up with We the Hobby, which is more knowledgeable about the hobby space. And instead of like hiring their own guys to start their own, be the breaking host, that might work, but why don't you start with a reputable hobby shop that can help out in this way? So I like that move by Walmart. I could totally see Target jumping on board if that's, that's kind of the playbook's out there now, right? And maybe they could innovate on top of what Walmart's doing. So I wouldn't be surprised at all, to tell you the truth, if Target makes an announcement soon about what they're doing. And, like with bigger, the only criticism is with the bigger corporations and like bigger retailers specifically, usually their websites are pretty junky, clunky. So they might have to just hire a website designer. Okay, please hire just, out of that multi-million-dollar budget. Yeah. I'm sure you could hire like a nice marketing designer type role and fill that in, and just make the user experience better. I think that's half the battle.
For sure. The user experience, going back to the user experience, I think the hobby itself has not experienced user experience at the potential it has, because we have not reached the technologies that we're going to reach in the next few years. So I'm interested to see what type of technology comes into play. Even like, I'm just thinking of shopping online at Walmart. Like anytime you look for cards too, you don't know if it's directly at Walmart or if it's a third party. So there's a lot of things that from a user experience that Walmart online kind of sucks. Right. But like I said, as technology increases, as our platform, potential increases, this is where I think someone like Walmart, like you said, they have really big budgets. There's no reason why they can't create an incredible user experience, especially if it's aligned with kind of the future path of what they're trying to do. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting in the next 2 years. I'm a big believer on technology itself, just because we've made that shift. Even when we started getting back into the hobby 2018, 2019, to see it now based on where we are, it's incredible. Even grading companies, it was only Beckett and PSA, and Beckett was such a big player in the game, probably more reputable than PSA at the time. And now it's just like totally different within, 5-6 years. And that was a quick 5-6 years. So the next 5-6 years, where do we see the hobby is all I'm kind of looking at. And based on what Fanatics is doing every week, it took the card hobby 15 years to do a fraction of what Fanatics is doing right now. So we're going in kind of like quantum timeline jumping, fast forward, like, so.
No, for sure. And going back to your point about, and tying in with what you were just saying, 4 or 5 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a hobby section in Walmart.
I'd love that. Yeah.
Right. And I think we even discussed that idea the last time we talked about, Walmart coming into the hobby space, just having that marketplace online. Like, hey, why don't they have a place where you can rip and submit your cards to PSA or to a grading company? I distinctly remember that discussion. Mm-hmm. And that's a good segue to, I also wanted to bring up quickly that Burbank Cards in California, they just opened up their new shop. From what I've seen on Instagram, it looks huge. It looks clean. It's great for the hobby too, to have a place like that where you can visit, and almost like for hobbyists, it's kind of a destination. If you're in California, you got to visit their store now. And as part of their store opening, they also announced that PSA is officially setting up shop permanently in their stores, where you could just walk in and submit your cards to PSA right inside Burbank Cards. So it's another example of a bigger company or corporation partnering up with essentially a local hobby shop. So what do you think of just that general kind of model in advancing the hobby? And can you picture anything else in terms of those kind of partnerships for the hobby?
For sure. I think it's smart on PSA's behalf. These guys are the ones pushing your product that are face to face with the consumer. So your PSA is doing a really good job with marketing the digital presence. And we've seen it, I forgot where I seen it. Maybe it was scrolling or one of you guys sent the link where, it's another record breaking month for PSA submissions. Again, fourth month in a row or whatever. It was fifth month in a row. That shows that data alone shows you that people are submitting. So why not partner up with, the biggest names, the most reputable names, to create that user experience a lot more fluid, a lot more easier, where I could go, I don't have to ship out these cards. One of the biggest problems with a lot of newcomers into the hobby, and I was included, when I did my first submission, I was like, man, is somebody gonna, intercept this package? Because you hear the horror stories, right? And if you're new to the hobby, that's the first thing. You don't want to send $1,000 cards, right? You're more comfortable with going into a reputable dealer, saying, you know what? It's insured. It's all protected. They're reputable. I trust them. I handed it off. And to me, that's thinking about the user. That's thinking about us to make that process a lot easier, because the data shows that millions and millions of cards are getting graded each month. So it's like, how do you continue that scalability to make it easier? Because you're still going to get the online submissions. It looks like they're tying in retail and face-to-face transactions, customer experience as a priority, which should be. So for me, it makes sense from PSA. I think companies that don't do that end up regretting it 2-3 years down the road, because they don't end up capitalizing when they had the momentum going on their side. So I see it as protection, growing, and security for PSA by these partnerships, and vice versa. These are the guys you want to be credible, because they're online as well. They're pumping the digital media content out to be relevant within the card market space. So you got to do collabs. You got to do partnerships. Right now is the time to kind of capitalize on that.
Yeah. And from that, 2 points that I immediately thought of. Beckett, you could do this too. You could partner up with, big retailers, take opportunity. It's very much in the early stages, right? Like, why not reach out to Walmart or another retailer, Target, and say, hey, can we set up give us a corner piece of your retail space, and we'll work on security and making sure that everything. So that's another thing altogether, right? We joked about, Walmart should have a PSA submission, but do we trust the teenagers that are working at
exactly.
Walmart?
It makes sense not to do that, because I would say submission is more like, okay, you're serious about this, so go to
hardcore, right? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. But as the hobby grows,
who
you
knows?
Go where the people are at, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, we have already seen those adult scalpers go into retail stores, okay, to take advantage of those kids. But you never know how the hobby grows, and the businesses can flourish, and that essentially dictates your decision making process, right? So Becca could do that, and the other thing is, and I was going to edit this out, but I can't think of it. So if it comes back later on in this podcast, I'll just kind of bring it back. But at the end of the day, I think there's so much opportunity that, seeing examples like this could even get other retailers and other people within the hobby, broadly speaking, have more creative ideas on how they could grow the hobby. So I love seeing news like this. And it'll be kind of cool. of course, we're up here in Canada. Things happen much later than when it happens in the States. So hopefully, we'll start to see this kind of innovation and development here north of the border as well, right? So, okay, you know what? Let's go on to our next segment. It's called Would You Rather? All right, so I can't remember the last time we did this, but it's essentially a glorified pick one, right? But I'm going to give you 2 hobby-related choices, and you essentially choose which one you would rather do or have.
Sure.
Okay? So I got 5 for you today. The first one is from one of our podcast listeners, Joel Cratter. Shout out to Joel. And he submitted this to us through DMs. Would you rather have a first Bowman autograph base card in a PSA 10 or a first Bowman autograph refractor card in a PSA 9? And he says any player, it doesn't matter who, but basically a base auto PSA 10 first Bowman or a base auto refractor PSA 9.
This is one of the greatest questions in the hobby, in my opinion, because I still fight over it for the last 5 years. I think for me, at least, we always preach, buy the card, not the grade. But I think it has to be done on an individual basis. And it depending on what your whole end goal is. Because if a PSA 10 is scarce, I'm in on the PSA 10 base. But if it's not scarce, I'd rather have the numbered refractor in a PSA 9, if that makes sense. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Is one, obviously values, over time, if you get a scarce PSA 10, that's, they don't have that many, the liquidity is going to be better. So on ups and downs, your liquidity is going to be way better than a refractor PSA 9, right? But it goes back to a hobbyist in you. Are you collecting the card, or are you collecting, a scarcity grade about that card? And I get both, because a PSA 10 slab still is valuable regardless if it's a base auto, because now you're dealing with the scarcity of graded cards instead of scarcity of production run cards. So, but refractors look way better, right? So there's always that push and pull from me as well, where I've had both. But in my personal experience, when I do liquidate, that it becomes the deciding factor. Usually PSA 10s are a lot easier to sell in the long run. When there is a bump, they get the bump. PSA 9s can always be lowballed, I find. And I always said too, any PSA 9 is a great value buy, where I'm thinking BGS 9.5 crossovers. So there's so many different variables to it. But with that said, it's all dependent on the card.
I think that's a really good answer, though. It's very nuanced, and just the way you explained it, I couldn't say it better myself. But in general, the purist in me, I'm always going for the refractor. That's actually more scarce card, the numbered one, and especially if it's just a PSA 9. It might be different if it's a PSA 8 or 7, then that comes into play as well. But if you're giving me a PSA 9 refractor numbered, generally, I'm going to go for that, because I think the value is much better there than the PSA 10 of the base.
What if the pop counts were the same?
Then that's different. But I'm generally, the reason why I'm saying generally a lot, right, is that modern cards these days, you're going to get a lot more PSA 10s now than, right, when you're collecting Buster Posey or that era of cards. Right. When it was a little bit more strict, and back then Beckett was still predominantly the grader you send to for your first Bowman Chromes, right? So, but nowadays, everyone submits to PSA. Right. A lot more PSA 10s come back. You could check the pop counts. I'm sure the more modern players in the 2020s, you're going to see a lot more PSA 10s, to tell you the truth, because it's fresh out of the pack. There shouldn't be any, unless it's miscut, right? But yeah, so I think, generally speaking, if you're collecting now, modern baseball especially, we're talking about first Bowman. I guess it could be football too, but for us, mostly baseball. then I'm still going with the refractor, which is numbered. That's my play. But it's a good question, because even then, if it's a refractor, it's $4.99, right? So
there's still a lot.
There's a green, there's a blue, there's a gold, right? Until you get, when you get to the more rare ones, like the golds and the blues, then the grading matters less, I think, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
So I'd rather have a PSA 7 gold of a good player than a PSA 10 base.
Yes,
right?
Agree. 100% agree. And I think that's where the refractors get tricky, is because it's like there's a little too many, and then there's PSA 10 refractors. There's a bunch of those, so it's like, okay, do I want to? And it goes back to that short term. If I'm short term, the liquidity, and I want to make maximum dollars potentially at the right time, I unload a PSA 10 that is inflated in value, and I could maybe move it into a numbered card of that version where it's a lower grade, and people are willing to kind of get rid of that. That would be my long term play if I really like the player.
There you go, Joel. Your complicated, complex answer to your simple,
that was a good question,
straightforward question. Yeah, it's a good debate for sure. Okay, the next four are much simpler and more fun, I think, in terms of being more lighthearted. But I saw this in a tweet. Would you rather have, or I saw this card specifically, a game-used shoelaces relic card?
Shoelaces, okay.
Right? You don't see that often, but I just saw a tweet about that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Or a game-used cleat relic card.
Oh, man. Well, I was never a fan of the cleat. Like, I just, like, eye appeal wise, it just looks like, any type of base cleat. Unless the cleat is like, it's like the Nike patch of the cleat.
Nike patch of the cleat.
Not the cleat itself, not the spike itself. Like, it's part of the shoe.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm talking about, but you got to see some cleat. That's what I'm talking about. The
metal
bottom
part. Well, because in baseball, I call the whole cleats, the whole shoe is the cleats. Okay, but if you're talking about the metal spike in within the cleat, then to me it's just like, but then shoelaces, like, I just think shoelace looks better. If I pull the shoelace patch auto and I'm like, damn, like what is the shoelace? Like, cool. But then if I got a cleat, I'd be like cool, it's a cleat, but it looks ugly. It's just a metal piece sticking out, right? And how thick is that card? Like the cleat.
Yeah, they're both pretty thick. They have to be.
Shoelace doesn't have to be. It's pretty flat, I would think. But that cleat has to be like a 3D card, right? Like
it's a block.
It's a block. Yeah. So I'm gonna go with shoelaces in this case. I know that sounds crazy, but you're very limited. I'm not a big cleat collector, I guess, or a spike. I didn't even say cleats. Spike collector.
That's fair. Fair enough. I don't know. I envisioned that you would appreciate the cleat more because you played pro ball. So I don't know. Or maybe it's for the the regular fan finds it much more cool than
potentially. I could see the appeal.
Yeah. With that said, I think the shoelaces looks better too. And maybe it's just a picture. They tied it in a nice bow. If you're bored, you can untie it and tie it if you want. So you can do more things with the shoelace than with the cleat. So I'm going to go with shoelaces as well. All right. We kind of brought this up last week in our previous episode. The T206 Honus Wagner that's currently up for auction on Golden. I think it's over 3 million still.
Crazy.
But Golden was on a news show just recently, I think Fox News or NBC, I can't remember which one, and he was talking about this card specifically. In a PSA 1, he's hoping that it goes anywhere from 6 to 7 million when the auction's over in a couple weeks.
Wow.
Would you rather have that card? Or I was looking for comps. What cost $6 million? Or what's sold for $6 million? The closest thing I found that it's more appealing to me, I don't know for you, for any Nirvana fans, Kurt Cobain's guitar, the one he played in the MTV Unplugged, back in the day. People our age will know what I'm referring to.
If you grew up in the 90s, yeah.
You know exactly what I'm saying. His guitar sold for $6.1 million recently in an auction. So
interesting, very, very interesting. And I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I'm a music guy though. I will say I love music. I grew up in the 90s. Nirvana was massive growing up, but for me, I'm baseball at heart. Like, to me, the T206 is a piece of Mona Lisa, piece of art. It's a 52 mantle. It's a grail that's probably even more than the 52 mantle, a lot more rare. So for me, this is the easy one. It's the T206.
I thought you would say that. For me, it's harder. Little, unknown or relatively unknown fact about Clark Kim.
Long hair Clark Kim?
I didn't have long hair, but I did have the middle part where I had long bangs.
Amazing.
That's as close as I got, right? Back in the day. But it was that era, actually. That era of the haircut. I learned guitar because of Nirvana. I wanted to learn every Nevermind song, and so it means more to me as a Nirvana fan, Kurt Cobain fan. That being said, I just think there's more value in the T206. There's more baseball card collectors out there than probably Nirvana fans, right? Yes. So now at least, and so I'm going with the T206 as well. Although the Kurt Cobain guitar is pretty cool.
Interesting.
All right, next one. I put this poll on Instagram stories with my Bobby Wood Jr. Home Field Advantage Superfractor, and on the Friday episode that I recently ran, I was talking about how the IG story poll suggests that most people would rather have the PSA 8 versus the PSA Authentic. It wasn't even close, right?
Right.
And so I pondered to myself, I wonder at what number grade you would start to change your mind. Okay. And there was a Paul Skeens Home Field Advantage Superfractor that sold on Golden for under 9,000. It's actually relisted now on eBay, and the auction has about 5 days left. It's at, I think, 1,300 now. I'm sure that'll go up in the last days of the auction. But that that Paul Skeens Home Field Advantage Superfractor is graded a PSA 6.
Ooh.
Okay. So would you rather have that card in a PSA 6, or would you crack that out and get a PSA Authentic?
That's interesting. One, I think because it's a Superfractor, I wouldn't care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with the PSA 6. I don't think I need to crack it out into Authentic. I think any other card I would. Not a Superfractor. I at least I wouldn't have the need to. I'd rather take my chances and re-crack it, hoping that PSA will give me an 8.
Okay, that's yeah. I call that the DC move. Just re-crack and submit.
I'm okay with that. I think I would do that over going straight Authentic right away. But yeah. I think I would just hold the PSA 6 just because it's Superfractor. It's a Superfractor. It's a 1 of 1. It doesn't matter what grade it's the only one available. And no one, as long as it's visually appealing, right? I think I wouldn't. The only case I would do that is if it was an auto. So if it was an auto, I would probably crack it into an Authentic, hoping that I would get an Authentic Auto 10.
Right. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I think you could argue the same thing if it was already in a PSA Authentic, right? It's a 1 of 1, it's a Superfractor, so it doesn't matter what the number grade is. So
for sure.
If it was already an Authentic, I'm just going to keep it an Authentic.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think you can make that same argument. And that's the argument I kind of made, like, even before it was graded. I think if you see that, okay, there's some surface damage, so it might come as a low grade, then would you just not even risk it? And I mentioned that now that PSA has the option of minimum grades, like if it doesn't hit a certain grade, just say Authentic, so you don't have to make that decision, right?
Yeah,
so,
I would definitely, if I seen a physical mark and I'm the one submitting it, I would just straight go for the Authentic slab.
Sure.
No, we did this actually with Andrew's card. So Andrew, one of our buddies in the chat group, and this was before the Otani hype. This is a massive card, but this is a funny story. I'm just going to quickly tell it because it's not really funny, but because he got the crappy end of the deal, where the card, it was an Otani Exquisite Auto, which is an insane card now. At the time, he bought it for relatively cheap. It was still overpriced at the time, but now looking at hindsight, but the guy shipped it in like a paper towel. and the corner was absolutely mangled.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where he wanted to submit it, but the auto was amazing. It's a beautiful auto, and we knew that it wasn't going to grade well, but we both agreed that we need to get this slabbed one, but because the auto's so crisp that we're going for the authentic auto 10, and he got that slab as an authentic auto 10. And even though the grade is not great, just having that auto 10 grade makes that card so much more valuable than what it would have been even sitting raw. Right? So
sure.
Yeah, I would do that directly, but but in the end, it's a massive card, huge win for Andrew. But yeah, it was a pretty big dick move by whoever shipped it in a paper towel.
Yeah, I'm hoping that people know by now, don't ship things in paper towels. Yeah, that's we're more knowledgeable about things like that in the hobby. So yeah, I remember that. But huge card now, like you were saying. I think I'm sticking with the PSA Authentic. I think I'm gonna 6 is. I know it doesn't matter if it's a 1 of 1, but 7's my cutoff.
7 is a good cutoff. That's what I usually say. 7 is good, but I wouldn't go out of my way, is what I'm saying. If it was already in a 6 and it's a home field advantage and it's a 1 of 1, then I would go. It all depends on the card, because like I said, if it was an auto that was good, definitely.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, last would you rather? Would you rather buy high on Ohtani? We were joking about this in our chat. Like, I don't think there'll ever be a buy low opportunity for Ohtani the way he's playing these days. He's on pace to hit like 175 runs, which what that happened in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Anyway, buy high on Ohtani or buy low on Trout.
How low is Trout going, guys? And Ohtani, new current highs are future lows, I guess.
Right.
So are we really
potentially?
That's what we've been saying for 4 years. potentially, but every single high is a new low. Just remember that.
You know when the new low is going to happen? When I buy an Ohtani.
100%. It's waiting for us to be
one of
the
us
guys
to buy
that go all in on a card, and then that's when it all happens. I'm not going to be that guy.
I might. I'm getting FOMO now, so we'll see.
I think. Wow, this is tough, and it's Mike Trout is back now, which is good.
He's back. 10 home runs.
He's hitting home runs. What's he hitting? Under 200 still?
No, 230 now.
Okay,
he's raised it.
Okay, good.
DHing every day right now. So yeah. Yeah,
I think anytime, like, emotions are saying buy high on a Ohtani right now. Emotions, and we know that, buying on emotions is not a good thing, right? So I think the right move definitely is buying Trout at a low. I think he's still done enough to rectify, and it all depends on if you're a super fan of Ohtani, then it becomes invaluable. But if you're doing it just based on what's going to be worth more, or at least what's the best ROI for my money, I think Trout might be the way. I think Ohtani still he's still relevant. So I think in the long term it's still going to be an upward trend, but we don't know how downward it can get in terms of correction. And no one knows, because no one knows how big the marketplace is going to be. Nobody's going to know how Ohtani is going to continue this, or if he's going to settle down for a few years and then continue it. It all depends, and that's the trend of the price, right? The fact is that Ohtani's been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years on a consistent basis. I don't know. Is he gonna stop? I don't think so, unless something really bad happens. It's like we've seen incredibleness, so I don't mind either, is what I'm saying. But the Trout has to be of good value. And I said this to myself too. Would I ever invest in a super high-end Ohtani? And the answer is yes. So because I think even if you put cash into Ohtani, like a high, I think it's still a decent investment, Because if it's the right card and if it's long term and you believe in it, where it's like 20, you're dropping 25 grand, but you see it as $100,000 card, I think I'm okay with that. But
Okay.
yeah. But I don't think a lot of the cards are there. It has to be the right card. So I think there's a couple cards that people are overpaying. That's going to sit sideways now, no matter how much Ohtani does, just based on scarcity alone. So it's the right card, I would do it. But the non-emotional me is saying Trout is the right play.
Okay, so you're leaning toward buy low on Trout after all that.
Yeah, like I said, it's emotion versus logic.
Yeah. Yep. This was a hard one for me. That's why I asked it. And I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks this one was difficult. But mad FOMO right now. I'm like always looking for Ohtani cards. I'm like, should I pull the trigger on this? Specifically, there's a red ink Heritage Auto card. First one in a Dodgers uniform. It's at $5K now. I'm like, that's... I don't want to raw, Ooh. Right? So I don't want to do that. But the more I look at it, I'm like, I might.
That's a great long-term play. Like, to me, that's a great. I don't even think that's necessarily overpaying.
Sure.
As you could buy. When I say overpaying, we're talking about Topps Chrome colored. That's golds are going for 30, 40K.
Right. Oh, I'm not even thinking that. I'm thinking like even base, first Bowman Chrome base. We were talking about first Chrome base, PSA 10, over 10K. Yeah,
that's maybe overpaying. Yeah. Whereas a numbered red ink auto of a Dodgers uniform could be a great buy at that price point, right?
Yeah.
Because and it goes back to is rookie cards the only valuable card?
Right.
So,
and like I've had this discussion with Brent, aka Deep Value Investor. He thinks I'm stretching. He's like, would you do this with other players? And then I joked, I'm like, no, but he's Ohtani, he's singular. You know what I mean? He's the only one I would make many exceptions for, essentially, at this point.
Yes.
So anyway, that's an aside. But call me a fool, call me an idiot. I'm buying low on Trout. I'm going back to the well. If I had to make this choice, I'm going back. Oh man, it could very well hurt me.
But with that said, Clark, I think there's opportunity to do a hybrid approach here, and because I feel like there are Ohtani cards that are on sale. So maybe not buying into the Ohtani hyped up cards and go into a second tier card with a Trout, buy low. Sure. Right? I think that's the right play.
We've created a third option for you guys.
I always love third options.
Hyung is a master of creating third answers, third options. All right. Okay, let's finish our show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And I'll go first this time because I gave you a heads up on what mine will be.
Sure.
Right? I saw a Instagram clip of, I don't think it was a hobby podcast, but I think it was just a general sports podcast. And they were highlighting 3 young outfielders, right? Or 3 young, is James Wood an outfielder?
Yep.
Right field?
Yeah.
Or is he first base?
Outfielder.
So, okay, 3 young outfielders. And they're essentially saying, regardless of their cards, as an outfielder, as a player, who would you want on your team for the next 5-10 years? That was the question. So I'm relating this to the hobby. And the 3 players are Pete Crow Armstrong, phenomenal season this year. James Wood, also hot start, also has a pedigree. And then Corbin Carroll, an amazing rebound year from last season. Last season, he picked it up in the second half. So he's continuing that, his hot ending with a hot start for the 2025 season. So I picked out their gold refractor, okay? So the equivalent of investing 5-10 years, you're going for their first Bowman gold refractor card, okay? And this is the best comps that I can come up with. 2 of them are BGS 9.5 Auto 10, and one's a PSA 9 because I couldn't find a BGS 9.5. Okay, so the first one, Pete Crow Armstrong, gold refractor, first Bowman, PSA 9, sold for $2,609, $2,600. Okay, PSA 10 sold for $11,000 recently. So that's your comp. But right. PSA 9, $2,600 will make that kind of equivalent to a BGS 9.5, maybe a little bit under. James Wood, Gold Refractor, First Bowman, BGS 9.5, sold for $4,400. And a Corbin Carroll, Gold Refractor, First Bowman, BGS 9.5, sold for $4,500.
What was the PCA's gold 9? Was it 2,600?
Yeah,
that's a pretty.
So
good
if
buy.
you could get a BGS 9.5,
right,
it could maybe bump up to a 4K.
Yeah,
maybe.
makes sense.
So yeah,
for me, I'm going based not on price here because I feel like they're all equal in terms of price right now, comped. Like it seems about
more
that,
or less.
right?
Yeah,
More or less, yeah. Because Corbin Carroll's around 4K for a 9.5. Wood is 4.5, and then PCA is 10K for a 10, right? Yeah, I'm going. This is actually interesting because I thought it was going to be who am I if I'm investing in as a player versus what's the better buy, but I think they both go hand in hand because you know how big I'm on. Well, all three guys you could build your team off of. That's the beauty of it. All three are studs. I like the upside of James Wood the most out of all of them. I just think that he hasn't even reached what we've seen from Corbin Carroll and Pete Crow Armstrong right now. What we're seeing from PCA is his potential, right? So for me, he was a guy that, I was lucky enough to see actually play. Same with Corbin Carroll. So these guys are incredible baseball players, and they're going to help whatever team they're on. But I think James Wood could potentially be in a different category. I see James Wood as if there's an Aaron Judge type player, who is it going to be? And the only person I could think of is someone like James Wood. And for me, I think he's going to reach his potential in the next 2-3 years where we're going to be like, whoa, this guy is the real deal. The problem is he is on Washington, right? So I'm going James Wood for 4.5 on the gold. I'm in on that for sure.
Okay. Yeah, just looking at their stats, and if you just look at their home run, stolen bases, I know it's just early ish in the season, but PCA is 15 homers, 21 stolen bases, so he's stealing a ton this year. 276 average. James Wood, 16 homers, 9 stolen bases. Actually, that surprised me. I thought he was not much of a runner, but 9 stolen bases for a big guy too, right?
Yeah.
283 average, which is pretty good. And Corbin Carroll, 259 average, but he has 18 homers, 10 stolen bases. So the most, which is a little surprising too, being a smaller guy, but showing a lot of power. You're going to say something? Yeah.
No, I was just going to say as much as PCA, and maybe this will change your decision a bit or affect your decision, as much as PCA and Corbin Carroll are hitting home runs right now, I don't see them as 30-plus home run guys in general throughout their whole career. As every year you're going to get that type of production. Even Acuna is not, like, obviously Acuna, you're hoping a good season, he'll hit 30-plus, no problem. But even Acuna will have 20 to 30 home runs a season. I think Corbin Carroll and Pete Crow Armstrong fall into that 15 to 30 home runs a season. 30 plus would be a massive season. James Wood, on the other hand, would be a 30 plus home run season every season with the upside of 50 plus. That's the way I see James Wood.
Yeah. I mean, even in our chat, you've been playing up James Wood, so that's kind of persuading me a little bit more. But as of today, I'm still going with my boy Corbin Carroll.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, last year I should have bought. I'm like, oh, this is a great buy low opportunity when he had that slow first half, and of course I didn't do anything about it. But now I'm like FOMOing a little bit, and I'm like, oh, I should have bought last year. But and maybe it's the Asian bias. He's half Asian. Maybe that's coming into play subconsciously. But I think he's a stud, man. And I think in this day and age, there's something to be said about guys who can hit adequate power, 20 to 30 home runs with the upside even of 30 plus, 40 plus stolen bases. I think Ronald Acuna has shown that, that upside to have that kind of power, speed blend of player. And PCA, of course, has it. I just think Corbin Carroll has a slightly longer track record already. So that's why I'm going with Corbin Carroll in this case. But if James Wood does starts doing things like Aaron Judge type things, that can easily change my mind very quickly. So yeah, I'm going with Corbin Carroll in this case.
Nice.
All right, you got to pick one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
In the show.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stay on Aaron Judge until there's no good deals anymore, or there's no cards left of him because he's so overpriced like Ohtani. I still think he's underpriced compared to Ohtani. Like I said, every week Aaron Judge is doing Aaron Judge things. I don't think anybody in modern history is as close to Barry Bonds as Aaron Judge. Even what Shohei Ohtani's doing, I think Aaron Judge, what he's doing is just as spectacular, if not more. So I'm going to stick with Aaron Judge. And I'm going to go with, like I said, I think Topps Chrome is starting to really get expensive, and you've seen it. If you bought Topps Chrome autos earlier this year, you would have done really well. And prices are starting to really go up. And I chose 2 cards within that $1,000 to $2,000 range of an Aaron Judge auto. Because if I told you, hey, Clark, there's $1,000 to $2,000 autos of Shohei Ohtani in his rookie year, you would totally be in on it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Aaron Judge, we're going to go with the color green because we love it so much.
Okay.
So the green out of 99, a 2017 Topps Chrome auto, raw, of Aaron Judge, sold for $1,450.
Wow. Okay.
Out of 99. So that's not bad. A rookie out of 99 auto for $1,450 raw, June 1st. I'm going to pair that up with another green. Okay. It's a little more expensive. It's actually a year before. It's Bowman's Best green refractor auto out of 99. So this is one of those cards where it's not technically his rookie card. It was kind of like a prospect auto, but it's a PSA 10, and it sold for $2,000. So Bowman's Best a year before, 2016. Okay, so these are like the best of 2016 autos, right? And they do have history to be good cards. If you see Ohtani's Bowman's Best, they sell pretty decently. But this one's a PSA 10 that sold for $2,000.
I see the listing actually on Card Ladder, $1,600.
It sold for $1,600?
Best offer.
Oh, it was the best offer. Okay, perfect. So it's right up the same price, $1,600.
Yeah.
For a Bowman's Best 2016 PSA 10 out of 99 for $1,600, or a raw Topps Chrome out of 99 2017 rookie auto.
Oh, this is good because there's a lot of variables that makes it a little bit more complex, right? Card for card, ungraded, raw. If they're both raw, I mean, it's an easy choice.
No-brainer.
Topps Chrome.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got the brand power. But
No-brainer.
the raw versus PSA 10, does that have enough of a factor? Is that enough of a factor to change my mind? That's essentially the question. Because I'm like, I mean, if it looks good, if the raw card looks good, right?
Assume that it doesn't look good, because you gotta remember there's a reason why it's raw.
That's true. And PC Sports Cards, the consignor sold it, so they're a big consignor.
Yeah, they're just
right?
taking whatever and pumping it out, right? But does that really matter?
Man. I would have to do, I'm not going to do it now, but I would have to do additional research. I'm like, what's a PSA 8 worth? You know, like what's a PGS 9 worth, or 8?
I believe a Blue Wave auto. I think recently a BGS 9.5 recently went on bids for like $4,600.
Okay.
And I think that's at a 75. I could be wrong. I didn't fully check, but that's a Topps Chrome BGS 9.5 Blue Wave.
I'm going to take the risk. I'll go for the Topps Chrome.
Really?
I'm just gonna,
okay.
I feel like, you know, if it's even a PSA 7, let's say, right? I think over time, if you're a big believer in Aaron Judge, people are going to know the Topps Chrome card. Mm-hmm. That's going to be more liquid in the long run, I think, versus like I didn't even know this 2016 Bowman's Best existed until you just mentioned it right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, 2016, that's an odd year for him to have a Bowman's Best card. So yeah, I'm going to go for the more familiar, more reputable, even more iconic Topps Chrome brand. And honestly, I joke that we're, big fans of the green refractor. I don't like the green refractor, but Aaron Judge is the only one I'll make an exception for just because of his jersey number, 99. Amazing. I can make that exception for. So Topps Chrome green, give that to me.
Speaking of green, I don't know if you remember, I during kind of like the hype in 2022, I would say, I bought a box of 2020 Topps Chrome. Mm-hmm. And it was such a bad box. But I got one hit. It was the last pack. And I pulled a green Aaron Judge Topps Chrome out of 99. It was the SP that was numbered 99 out of 99.
I saw it, and you're in the showroom.
Yeah, and then I graded it, and it graded at SGC 10. I ended up selling it though, but I should have kept it.
You should have kept it. Hindsight's 2020, but
I got my money back and more off the box, but still, I should have kept it. But that was the story. And with that said, I think still Topps Chrome, just based on the way Fanatics is presenting everything, just based on history, flagship is going to be king in the long run. And I think the Topps Chrome auto, rookie auto, regardless if it's not a hitting image, it's him jumping, right? Which is probably the worst image. But I think that will be the buy at that price point, regardless, because I think the Bowman's Best, I still like the Bowman's Best card, but Topps Chrome flagship of someone like Aaron Judge, look at Ohtani's Topps Chrome flagship rookie autos. Ridiculous compared to Aaron Judge's. So to me, the opportunity is right there, regardless if it's raw. The auto looked semi-decent, so it's one of those things where, hey, what we talked about in the previous, should we authentic auto 10 this? Would be kind of like a
good candidate.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it. And yeah, honestly, if you don't know what Judge is doing now, there was a recent article on USA Today. Just check out that article. His stats are unworldly right now. I think one of them that's really surprised me is if you include his walks and the number of hits this season, he's been on base every other at plate, essentially. Yeah. Who does that as a baseball player? Crazy. Every other at plate, he's guaranteed to be on base. That's essentially what the stat is saying. Yeah. Which is... it's 500 OBP. I thought baseball was a game of failure, not to Judge this year.
Yeah, it's a game of success.
So that's kind of puts things into perspective on what Judge is doing. And I'm telling you, I think at some point you'll stop giving Aaron Judge a pick one because the value won't be there anymore.
It won't be there anymore. We won't talk about it. But we still talk about Ohtani, so who knows?
Yeah, that's true. All right, another great show. Appreciate you guys. And yeah, we'll have a brand new episode for you on Friday. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.